What is up, guys? My name is Theo, and today we are talking about the X-H1. Is this still a good camera for 2020? So for those of you guys who are new to this channel, my name is Theo, and I do a lot of photo and video content here on this channel. I am also a Fujifilm shooter, so if any of those things interest you, do consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you guys can get notified when I do post new videos. With all that said though, let's just kind of jump right into the video. Now, the main reason why I wanted to make this video was because I feel like a lot of people give this camera a bad rap. And they have ever since this camera first came out. And I think that this is an extremely capable camera, still even in 2020. So I kind of wanted to give you guys the 4 main reasons on why I think this is a great buy in 2020. And also compare this camera to another popular camera that's out there right now that it was really meant to compete with. And just maybe I may be able to prove that this is still an extremely great camera for anyone to buy in 2020. But first, I'm going to put this guy down so I don't drop it. So for me, coming from an X-H1, which I'm using to film this right now, I wanted to upgrade into another Fuji camera. And the 2 main options I was thinking about was either the X-H1 or the X-T3. Now I know when it comes to all the specs and stuff, the X-T3 definitely puts out a much better image, definitely has better specs when it comes to how good of an image it can produce. So I'm going to give you my 4 main reasons why I picked the X-H1 over the X-T3. Now, the first one, which was definitely the biggest one, was the price. For those of you guys who weren't paying attention to this camera over the holiday season, Fuji did put a big discount on this camera and was selling the camera, the grip, and 3 batteries for $1,000, which is a steal considering how capable this camera really is. So definitely saving a bit of cash over the X-T3 was a big factor in why I purchased it. Now I know that deal is over and this camera is back up to its $1,300 price tag. But even on the used market, I mean, if you're looking at this camera used, this camera is going for around $750 if you can find one. So with that $700 price tag, if you're getting a grip that's used, you can get those around $200, $250. And picking up 2 extra batteries, you're looking at around that $1,000 price tag if you don't mind buying a used camera. And again, for that price, you're getting a great camera. Or even for that full $1,300 price tag, this camera has pro-level photo features as well as video features. So in my opinion, I think it's one of the most versatile cameras for hybrid shooting for that price tag. Now, number 2 definitely has to be ergonomics. The grip on this camera is extremely comfortable. I know it makes this camera a lot bigger, very DSLR-like, but I don't mind that. This camera isn't really huge in comparison to, say, like a pro-level DSLR. This size is completely manageable to me, at least, especially pairing it up with some of the smaller lenses because it's an APS-C camera. This size doesn't bother me at all. It gives me a lot more to hold on to, makes me feel a lot more comfortable so I can shoot for longer periods of time, and just gives me just a sturdy grip over the camera. So if I'm shooting something like video, I have a very secure grip on this camera, which can give me a lot smoother footage. So the grip, in my opinion, is definitely a plus. I know that's going to be a con for some, but definitely a plus for me, especially when you put that grip on it. It just kind of rounds out the bottom of the grip. Even if you're holding it vertically, it's definitely just a lot more secure in the hands than something like the X-T3 or even the X-T20 like what I'm shooting on now. Number 3 definitely has to be the build quality of this. I can definitely tell just by holding this camera and just the way it feels, it is an extremely durable camera, and I know that I can beat this thing up and basically give it everything that I have, and it's going to take the beating and still produce an amazing image. And even the weather sealing on this camera, I've seen some people put this camera through some like pouring rain and still surviving, and so it kind of gives me peace of mind knowing that I can kind of put this camera through really anything and it's still going to hang in there and last me for the next couple of years. And the 4th thing definitely has to be Ibis. So for me, being a very like run and gun style type of shooter, I do a lot of handheld shooting, and Ibis for me is just something that can help me do my job a lot faster. I do currently own a gimbal, but I've never really had the urge to really break that out. I just always want to just get the job done just myself and be quick and efficient and just kind of get out of there. So gimbals definitely have their purpose, but a lot of the way I shoot and the types of shooting that I do is all handheld. So being able to have a great Ibis system like this X-H1 does, the camera really just gets out of my way and allows me to shoot the kind of content that I want. And ever since the latest patch that Fuji put out for this camera, the Ibis has been really good. And especially when you pair it with a lens that has OIS, you're getting gimbal-like footage. I mean, I know it's not a gimbal, it's not going to compare, but you're getting gimbal-like footage when you combine both types of stabilization. So it's definitely, it makes a huge difference. Now, I know this is not the only Fujifilm camera with Ibis anymore, and some of you guys may be asking, why didn't I just hold out for the X-T4? And just to kind of reiterate, the whole point of this video is this is still an extremely capable camera, and this camera can do more than plenty for what I need as a shooter. There's still a lot that I'm learning about photo and video, so until I get to the point where this camera is kind of holding me back, which will be a while, I don't really see any reason to spend $1,700 when I spent $1,000 on this camera. So it definitely takes a lot of willpower to kind of hold back from wanting, the best of the best gear, especially as photographers or videographers. You always want to go after the latest stuff, but it took a lot out of me, and I decided to go with the smarter answer, the smarter decision, and save some money and still come out on top with a very capable camera. So this fifth or kind of bonus thing that I wanted to talk about on why this camera is still a good camera in 2020 is just to really kind of compare this camera to another very popular camera that's out right now that this camera was really meant to compete with, and that camera is the Sony a7 III. Now I know I'm probably gonna get some crap for talking about this, but I think when you are comparing these cameras side by side, I know a lot of people get lost in the specs of each camera and what they can do, and some people will buy cameras solely on just specs alone. But if you take another look at this camera's specs, they are kind of on the same page as the a7 III. Now, the three main things that the a7 III has over the X-H1 are better battery life, better autofocus, and a full-frame sensor. Other than that, the X-H1 kind of really competes with the a7 III kind of neck and neck, if not does better in certain aspects. So if you're comparing some of the specs between these two cameras, if you're talking about the bit rate, the X-H1 shoots at 200 megabits per second compared to the 150 that the Sony a7 III does. If you're comparing Ibis, the X-H1 definitely has way smoother Ibis than the a7 III does. If you're talking ergonomics, the grip on the X-H1 is definitely a better grip than the a7 III. I guess ergonomics are kind of subjective, but in my opinion, I think they're better. If you're talking about color, Fujifilm colors are a lot better than Sony colors. And even when you're talking about those three downsides that the X-H1 has under the a7 III, the autofocus on the X-H1 is plenty good when you're taking photos. And when you're talking about video, there's plenty of people out there that shoot video that are only manual focus shooters. A lot of people say you have a lot more control when you are shooting in manual focus. So that's kind of a workaround for that. When it comes to battery life is definitely better on the a7 III, but with the vertical grip you're getting with the X-H1, it does improve battery life quite a bit. So that really isn't too big of an issue. And of course, full frame, that is kind of another one of those subjective things again. I don't personally mind not having a full frame camera. There are plenty of people out there who definitely strive to have that look in their footage, but it's not something that really is a deal breaker for me. If you are looking for a more shallower depth of field, there is plenty of fast glass out there that you can get your hands on that can produce quite a shallow depth of field. With something like the Medicon at 35mm 0.95 is a great lens and then can give you that full frame look with that shallow depth of field. So if that's what you would want to be, if that's what you really want to get out of a full frame camera, there are workarounds for that as well. So in all, if you're comparing these two cameras side by side, the X-H1 does stand its ground, and especially when you're considering the price as well. I think the a7 III still, at the time of shooting this video, still around $2,000, like $1,700 or $1,800. So again, $1,300 full price. If you can even get it cheaper if you're getting it used, and it's still competing, kind of going head to head against the a7 III, which is the most popular hybrid shooting camera that's out there. So yeah, I think those are the main reasons why I think this camera is still a good buy for 2020. Now I know this camera isn't perfect, and that's not what I'm trying to say during this video. No camera is really perfect, and this camera does have its flaws, but again, this still doesn't mean that this camera can't hold its own in any circumstance, whether that's photo or video. And that's all I was trying to really say in this video. Well, that about does it for this video, guys. If you guys did enjoy this video or got something out of it, or you have a complete whole other mindset about the X-H1, definitely let me know in the comments and hit that like button. It is much appreciated, and I will catch you guys later.